The name Kush first appears in the Bible, Genesis chapter 10. Kush is one of the grandsons of Noah. He's the son of Ham. Kush is the father of Nimrod. The Bible says that Nimrod was the first empire builder. Some of the cities that he built, Shinar, Babel, the empire, Babylon, perhaps even the founder of Assyria. So this guy, Nimrod, is the son of Kush. The name Kush means black, straightforwardly. Of all the ancient Eastern African empires that I've studied, that I believe is worth studying, that I could recommend to you, the viewer today, in terms of what's worth studying, I would highly recommend that you study Kemet, which is modern-day Egypt, that you also study Aksum, which is modern-day Ethiopia. But for my money, and for the depth of knowledge and information that comes to us, that we are still benefiting from in Western civilization today, I say Kush is that empire that I find the most interesting. For many reasons. Some that relate to religion, others that relate to science, astronomy, still others that relate to the military prowess of these men, these archers, these warriors that were world-renowned. So Kush is the name, and the first time we see the name, it spells C-U-H, it's in the Bible. But we are fairly confident that the empire that is named Kush, which is K-U-S-H, is the one and the same. I mean, if you just do the work in terms of looking at the region in which Kush in the Bible resided and his descendants resided, and you overlay that with the Kush of secular history, then you can see very clearly it's the same entity. Kush, as it is spelled modern day in secular terms, K-U-S-H, was first used by the people of Egypt, or Kemet, in referring to the empire that was on their southwest border that they had dealings with in terms of trade, in terms of intermarrying, but also in terms of confrontation. So over a period of thousands and thousands of years, Kemet had these interactions. Some were friendly, some were just basically business transactions, and some were downright hostile. There were times at which Kush invaded Kemet. There were times at which Kemet invaded Kush. But in terms of the name, that was the first time that we see it spelled K-U-S-H, and that is actually in the records of the people of Kemet. They're referring to it as one of their neighbors, at times one of their opponents, at times one of their trading partners. But another name that was very popular, very widely known for Kush, was Ta-Seti. Ta-Seti. Now, Ta-Seti means the land of the bow. The word Ta means land, Seti, bow. And they refer to the people of Kush as being the land of the bow because they were particularly known for their skill, their talent, and their ability with the bow. They were actually known for their military prowess all the way around. They had armies at times where they fought with elephants that they used as essentially tanks. They were fierce hand-to-hand combat warriors, but they were especially known around the world and actually recruited by major empires, including Kemet, at times their arch enemy, to be mercenaries. It's interesting about Kush in terms of these warriors. The police that watched over, that essentially be the secret service for the pharaohs, many of them came from Seti. That speaks to the level of military skill, strength, ability, achievement that the people of Kush had. Kush was, as I've said before in other lectures, recruited not just by Egypt or Kemet, but by other empires such as Assyria, perhaps even Persia, and other places. We know that they were known for being fierce. We've talked about the fact that the Romans found out the hard way that they were not something to be toyed with. When Rome was conquering the world and essentially facing no resistance wherever they went, they ran into very staunch resistance. The fact is that Kush lost battles against Rome, but more amazingly, no one expected this little tiny African empire to win anything against the mighty Roman Empire, but they won battles. Not just one battle. They won battles. In fact, in terms of the exchange of slaves, when we think about slavery, for example, we think about the Europeans coming into Africa and taking African people and making them slaves. One of the interesting things about Kush is that when Kush went to battle with Rome, at points they captured Roman soldiers, white European Roman soldiers, and enslaved them and brought them back to Kush. That's certainly not something that is widely discussed in Western history, because it belies the false notion in terms of why the West said they had to come into Africa and subjugate the people who had not declared war on them, had not tried to take their goods, their talents, and their lands. So the false narrative was that we had to educate these people, we had to enlighten them. Therefore, God called us to enslave them. Well, if you understand that actually Kush enslaved Romans, that kind of flips the script entirely, right? But if we even go back further into ancient history, we talk about the fact that the Greeks around the 500s and 400 BC era traveled to Kemet, traveled as far as Kush to learn the sciences, to learn philosophy. And when the people of Kush and Kemet talked about philosophy, it wasn't just the esoteric, abstract thought about the meaning of life. For them, philosophy was medicine, it was geometry, it was mathematics, it was the hard sciences included in that, and mostly taught by the priests. The thing about Kush and Kemet that caused them to have a love-hate relationship is they had the same god. Amun-Ra was the name. They had the same god. His name was Amun-Ra. And the priests of Amun-Ra, or Ra for short, were the keepers of the secrets of society. And that related to not just religious philosophy and theology, but also science itself, medicine, astronomy, the things that we take for granted today. The developments of civilization that have been wrongly attributed to Greece. If you look at the Greeks' early writings relative to their interaction with Kush and Kemet, which I talk about them interchangeably somewhat at this point, and I know that I'm doing that. But I'm doing that with intentionality because actually there are many scholars who believe that Kemet, or Egypt, was a colony of Kush. In other words, if you know something about Northeast Africa, you know that the Nile River flows from south to north. And that as society was being developed, the people migrated from the south to the north. So we know geographically that Kush is south of Egypt or Kemet. And there are writings that suggest, ancient writings that suggest that the people of Kemet were actually the descendants or colony of Kush. Now, of course, if you look at the writings that some of that the Egyptians had, they spoke about Kush in condescending, disparaging terms. They referred to Kush as being Baal Kush. But you have to wonder whether or not that's language that's jaded by the fact that they were jealous at times, that they were competitors at times. That the name of the game during that time was becoming wealthy and becoming powerful by controlling the trade routes. And the fact is, at times, Kemet controlled the trade routes, and at other times, Kush controlled the trade routes. So Kush is this interesting place where 9,000 years ago, and I want to make sure I'm correcting myself in terms of the math, but I believe it is 9,000 years ago, in a place that is today modern day southwest Egypt, but then it was a part of Nubia, then a part of Kush. Today we have these fixed boundaries, but 4,000 years ago, 5,000 years ago, the international boundaries were not so fixed. In fact, they were fluid. But the Nubians, 9,000 years ago, in a place called Nabta Playa, the Kushites were studying the distance between the planets, the speed at which the planets were traveling, the speed at which planet Earth was rotating or moving through space. They had some sense of that. In a place called Nabta Playa, they created the first 365-day calendar, which we still use today, but they're not credited with that. So when I talk about the Eastern empires, and we're going to talk some more as we go into this in future postings, but when we talk about these three very significant Eastern African empires that existed a long time ago, we're talking about Kemet, we're talking about 5,000 years ago. Kush, roughly the same. Aksum existed beginning in 100 BC and going on to 800, 900 AD, 1,000 years roughly. So we're talking about these very significant East African empires that interacted with each other, arguably were related to each other. If we're now going to the biblical model, we know for sure that Kush's brother, younger brother, was Mizra. And if you know something in terms of Arabic language, that today Egypt is referred to by Arabic people not as Egypt, but as Mizra, because that's consistent with the Bible. Ham had several sons. One was Kush and another was Mizra. So if we take that on its face value, we know that the people of Kush and the people of Mizra or Kemet were related. They were brothers. And we also can reasonably deduce that the people of Aksum were related. But today we're focusing on Kush, and we'll talk more about Kush. Please stay tuned for future posts. If you want to know more about Kush, check out this video right here. Hey friends, thank you for checking out my YouTube channel. I hope you learned something. If you did, please take the time to subscribe. And also I would ask that you share this video with a friend or two.